Now, I think all of you will agree it's fair to say that Manchester United have had a relatively mixed start to the Premier League season so far. There's been some bright moments, but there's certainly been some dull ones as well. And last time out against Sunderland, that actually led to Ruben Amorim changing the approach slightly. He decided for United to become a more long ball team, a more direct team. Now, I use the word more because we've been relatively direct all season long. We haven't been afraid of that long ball. But particularly last time out against Sunderland with Le Mans in goal, United were more direct. In fact, Le Mans in that game attempted as many long passes as Bayindir did in the 2 games prior to that combined. So that was definitely United trying to play more direct, using the long ball more regularly. The question is, why were we doing that? Why did Ruben Amorim want us to do that? Is it a good thing for us to be using this new tactic, playing more direct and using the long ball approach? And is it sustainable? Is this something that in the long term could actually be successful, see us get in the top 4 and someday win trophies? That's the conversation for today. So let's start off with the why. Why would Ruben Amorim take this Manchester United 11 and ask them to play more direct, ask them to play a longer ball football more regularly? Reason 1, it reduces risks. Ruben Amorim feels like a manager who does like to avoid risk where possible, and playing the ball long naturally seems to do that. We know that if you play the ball short, yes, you've got an excellent opportunity to maybe build possession, build through the pitch and gain control of the ball, but also you're constantly putting the ball at risk. Every time you play these short passes round the back, you are at risk of losing possession. And if you lose possession in these areas, the opposition are of course incredibly close to goal. So naturally, in terms of risk aversion, it does make sense to play a little bit more direct, to send the ball a bit longer. Now, the other reason why you might want to play a little bit more direct is because it gives you more territory much quicker. Territory is about how much of the pitch you are covering, how far up the pitch realistically you are playing. If you play short, it can take 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe even 10 passes to actually get yourself into the opposition's half. And that takes quite a while to do that. It takes a lot of passes. It takes a lot of effort and work from the players. Or you can ask your goalkeeper to pick the ball up from a goal kick and just boot it like 50, 60 yards. You gain territory much easier. In one pass, we cover the ground that normally may take us a good 40 to 50 seconds. In terms of you making United a quicker, more direct team, it makes sense to go long and direct. It quickly gets us towards the halfway line and potentially even further because Le Mans seems to have really good distance on his distribution. So it allows United to quickly jump up the pitch and almost skip out all of the hard work in these areas. So that's another reason why you might want to do it. Another reason why you might want to do it is it suits the players that we've got, to be honest, particularly when Cunha comes into the starting 11 in the place of Mount. No offence to Mount, he's been very useful for us this season. But, you know, there's a lot of physical players out there. We've got a goalkeeper who is good at playing long and has that ability on both feet to get the ball with distance. But Šeško is 6'5". He's got an incredible leap. Physically, he has settled into the league incredibly well. It sort of suits him to play in that way. And Bumo is someone I have regularly labelled as sort of a wide target man, a player with the ability to move a little bit wider and just dominate opposition fullbacks with his strength from the direct ball. We know that Cunha is not exactly short, so he's another player that can deal with the long ball. Our wingback, Dallo, or sometimes Dorgu, are both relatively tall and decent in the air. In terms of the why Amorim wants to do it, I guess it kind of makes sense. The question is it actually good? Now, I think the idea of playing long ball football is something that really divides opinion. Some people will say that it's great. It sort of skips the unnecessary work in the first phase. It avoids a lot of the risk and it gets you forward much quicker. Others will say that it's not the modern game. It's not the way you're supposed to play. You're meant to get the ball on the floor. You're meant to have 60, 70% possession, control the game, play through the thirds, and play a more aesthetic style. A lot of this does come down to personal preference. But again, there are obvious strengths to playing long and weaknesses, which we will get to. Don't worry, if you don't like the long ball, I've got you covered as well. But in terms of the obvious strengths of playing long, you know, we've discussed why you might want to do it. Is it good? Well, it can be. It literally led to a red card for Chelsea in that match. We played long to Benjamin Šeško, he flicked the ball on, and the goalkeeper gets sent off. That only happens because we played the ball long. In terms of scoring against Burnley, it only happened because we played the ball long towards the left-hand side. Being direct, getting the ball forward quickly, allowed Manchester United to quickly get into a great position and score a goal. So, yeah, in that sense, long ball football can be very useful. It also allows us to get players situated higher up the pitch. There's been a lot of conversations since Amorim came into the club that the wing-backs are often too deep, that they can be pinned into a back five, And even in possession, when we try and build up from the back, they're often sort of operating as fullbacks, which isn't ideal, particularly in the case of Ahmad, and it forces us to play too many players too deep. Whereas on a long ball, we don't need them deep to build possession. We don't need them to build up in these areas. We can actually push them out a little bit higher. And again, if we are able to win that first contact, get on the second ball, our wing backs are high. There's no argument here that we are stuck in a back five. There's no argument that we are pinned and being defensive. We've got 5 players very quickly on the front line, and very quickly we are able to access them again with the long ball. The other thing is, there's an argument that it suits our midfielders. Yes, the dueling work is tough. It's quite difficult to win the 50-50s, which we'll come back to, but it does get them on the ball facing forward. And I think everyone in the comments is going to agree that suits Casemiro and Bruno Fernandes. These aren't players that you want playing with their back to goal, so get them facing the goal. And the way to do that is to go long. As the second ball drops, Bruno's going to be facing the opposition goal, as is Casemiro. And this is where we can be effective. So this is where long ball football is good. But then there's the flip side. The bad side. It's difficult to do. It's very difficult to do. To play long ball football regularly and to win a lot of duels. We'll come on to that in a second in terms of sustainability, durability of this approach. But also just, is this good? I'm not sure, because it does make it difficult to control a football match. The teams over the past few seasons that have finished in the top 4, challenged for titles, won Champions League, have been teams that have controlled games, whether that be control via a lot of possession, a lot of territory, or defensively being really solid. Teams that have succeeded in the past few seasons have been in control one way or another. I would argue this approach removes some control, because you are asking for a lot of duels, you're asking for a lot of 50-50 battles. Now, in some games you are going to have an advantage if you've got the greater intensity or the more physical players, but in other games you're going to have a disadvantage. Let's call it a 50-50 over a season. You're asking for a lot of battles between 2 players on the initial header, on the second ball dropping, and the third ball, the contact, things like that. Is that control? Is that something that can actually sustain over 90 minutes to get you a good result if you are constantly putting that ball at risk? A lot of people would argue that the true way to control a football match is to suffocate the opposition. And the way to suffocate the opposition is to sort of play a lot of passes, so they're doing a lot of running without really getting close to you, but also to make sure that they can never get out and counterattack. If you control the ball, if you keep the ball safely, the opposition never have that chance to transition. Whereas when you play that long ball approach, they are going to get the ball, right? There are going to be situations where they win it. Your striker, your inside forward can't win every header. Your midfielder can't win every second battle. So there are going to be moments where you are almost passing to the opposition. There's going to be long goal kicks that just sail out for a throw-in. We even saw that at the weekend. So it's good in the sense that it gets us up the pitch quite quickly, but I don't think it gives us control. Now, for me, this is where it really sort of stretches out into the conversation of sustainability, durability. Is this something that we can do for the next 2 years to get top 4, to win an FA Cup, to win the Premier League in 3 years' time? Is this approach going to work? I would suggest not. I think even in individual football matches, we see that, sure, when we win that second ball, it looks great and it looks like we can play quickly. The second we lose that second ball, though, we're in trouble. If we can see that in a 20-minute window, a 90-minute window over the course of a match, imagine a whole 38-game Premier League season. There are going to be games where, yes, we are more physical and we can get on the second balls and be dominant. But the second we face an opposition where we can't do that, where we can't win the battles, we are literally surrendering possession. We are giving the opposition the ball, and we're not exactly defensive masters ourselves. So we are asking to be beaten in that way. I think the other thing in terms of sustainability long term is the physical challenge that this provides. It's not easy, to go up for a lot of headers. That's tiring. Those jumping actions repeatedly, heading a ball repeatedly, contact with a centre back is difficult. In the midfield, constantly having to sprint over to pick up a second ball, particularly when there's only 2 of you, is quite difficult. Now, it might work this season because we've only got 1 match a week, but if we're thinking further forward, long term next season, hopefully we stay in the Cups, we are in European football, hopefully, suddenly physically this becomes a bit more taxing. It's much more difficult to do this every 3 days without all that rest in between. And I think the other thing that I would say in terms of sustainability is it makes evolution quite difficult. If you are a team which play quite direct, play quite long, it's difficult to sort of implement more ideas, more philosophies and more concepts to expand further. If you play long, how far can it evolve? It feels like it sort of peaks quite early. So in terms of sustainability, it's sort of capped, right? It's inconsistent at the best of times, and even its peak level isn't exactly amazing, scintillating football. The counter argument to that is throughout the history of the sport, teams that have played long and had some sort of physical presence up front have always caused teams problem. Even like the best teams have struggled to face this. Now, I think my final conclusion might be different to you guys because, like I said, some of us prioritise performance over results, or short term over long term, or short football over long football. For me personally, I think this more direct brand of football works in the short term. I think it's a good way to reduce errors, reduce risks at the back, which immediately makes us competitive in matches. We've got the physicality that we can compete, and we've got the players that are going to give us results. So by playing that almost simpler brand of football, I think it platforms the players quite nicely to, in the short term, get some confidence, get some results, which is exactly what we need right now. But in terms of long term, looking further, for me, it's something that would have to evolve. I don't think in the modern game you can play this way every single week and expect to challenge for the biggest titles. I don't think you can do that. You would have to evolve at some point. You need to be a two-way threat. Going long is great. I think it's a great tool to have, but you've got to be able to do the other side as well. You've got to be able to play out from the back and knit some passes together and move through the pitch rather than always going over it. That evolution is required. Now, Amorim might be more than capable of doing that. We don't know at this moment in time. So far at United, the evidence isn't there in the first 10 months, but perhaps that will change over time. I don't know right now. What I would say is there's nothing wrong with taking a 3 or 4 game window where you go back to basics to get some results, to get some confidence. And it feels like that's what Amorim might be doing with this approach. All well and good. In the long term, though, you've got to evolve. If we want to be a great team, we've got to apply greater methods of football. Hopefully that will happen, but right now we don't know. I really, really, though, want to hear your thoughts in the comments today. What do you make of this brand of football? Do you want to see something nicer? And if you do, is it just wanting or is it needing? Do United need to play a different type of football to actually win stuff? Let me know what you think in the comments, because you might be of the belief that this is the way to go. This more direct approach could actually be what United need to do for the next 3 or 4 years, and it could be incredibly successful. So I want to hear your thoughts. For me, good in the short term, but I want more in the long term. But now it's over to you to get into the comments. And also, whilst you're there, if you could please leave a like, subscribe, and get your notifications on, that would be greatly, greatly appreciated. But apart from that, we are finished for today. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this video. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.